Mastodon founder avoids going far right.
I would assume that something like Mastodon had already been run by like a foundation or a nonprofit at this point. I didn't know it was just some dude.
Only 5% in the US want an EV. The best way to sell electric cars is to like put people in the car and try it, and then it changes a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, what am I doing lugging around this engine for?
Yeah.
When I could have more battery instead.
Hello, how the tech are you? This is our weekly tech show on Eplex Media. I am historian Matt. I forgot to say that we talk about science and tech news. Of course, I screwed up the intro. Science and tech news and other science and tech stuff we feel like talking about. And again, I'm historian Matt. I am a co-host and co-producer on this show. And my other co-host will introduce himself for his segment. So I'll jump straight into my stories. I got two. And the first one is Mastodon founder avoids going far right. And this is basically Mastodon announced on Monday, the day we're recording this, that the organization will transition over the next 6 months to become wholly owned by a European nonprofit. The move takes control from the founder, Eugen Rochko, I think is how you pronounce his name. If not, I'm sorry. But Eugen Mastodon said that Mastodon would be free of control of any single wealthy individual forever since he began it. And now he's kind of put those words to action so nobody can actually do it. And this comes after backlashes to changes to other social networks, namely Meta and Twitter, by their founders / owners. So Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter, previously we only thought he was crazy, but now we've found out that he's fully far right, MAGA, crazy type person. And more recently, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram and is possibly a robot, has just announced changes that push to those networks that he has, pushing those networks further to the right. In other news for Mastodon, Mastodon is also seeking more funding to support its operation. They're looking for about $5 million. Current operating expenses are a measly $152,476. So that's a big increase in their budget, which they're switched to the nonprofit, but they're hoping will help them with. And they're increasing the budget basically because they want to add a lot of features and continue to support the service and grow the service. And that includes they want to add a feature for a privacy respecting search tool for searching the Fediverse. So Fediverse is all the federated type services that are out there that are usually free and open source. Anybody can run them if they want. So keep on tooting in the free world. What do you think, Dave?
I would assume that something like Mastodon had already been run by like a foundation or a nonprofit at this point. I didn't know it was just some dude.
Yeah, it was basically some dude, but for a long time, it wasn't particularly big and he could just, run it, without too much trouble. But with the past couple of years since, Elon Musk took over Twitter, basically like really started taking off and is now big enough that they really should be moving to some sort of foundation, right, nonprofit structure.
It's good that he was like, hey, I don't want anybody to be able to buy it. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But you can't really buy it anyway because of the federated nature. Like you could buy, I guess, you buy like the name, right? But like it's already out there and it's already open source. So even if somebody did buy it and tried to close it all off, somebody would just fork what was there already and just keep going. So that's like
so I think was it like Mastodon.social is the biggest. I think it's the biggest Mastodon instance, but there are plenty of other ones out there. Including port87.social, which is the one that HK runs for us and that I'm on. And I think you're on. I don't know if you posted anything to it.
I've been posting more to it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I should tag you when I post so that you see it.
I might see it. I don't know. Because I tried to hack it and like followed a lot of people and got a lot of followers. I get a lot of messages. I get a lot of stuff in my feed. And so I don't always see everything.
Yeah, I mean, This is good. Like I said, I thought that I would have assumed this was already the case, but now that it is the case, that's fantastic. It's it's always usually better when foundations run things than when individuals do.
Yeah. So this looks good for the future. I guess a billionaire couldn't buy it up if they tried, and even if they did, they would maybe get one instance or something like that. But if they tried to buy up the nonprofit, I mean, I guess they might be able to do it. I don't know how that would, how useful that would be, or how you'd go about doing that sort of thing. But I guess OpenAI did something similar.
I think what they did, I would call defrauding the public and violating the public trust via lying about how they were this open thing that was for the public good. I don't know exactly what happened there, but like I said, it seems like this guy's got the right idea. He's like, hey, he may be perfectly fine to run it, but he's like, one person, even me, shouldn't be in charge of this. So
yeah,
that's good. And like I said, the way that it's structured, nobody's really in charge anyway, but it's good that the open source project around it is, there's also advantages to having a foundation. Like you can get help fundraising. Like you said, they want $5 million. I think people would be hesitant to give that kind of money to one dude. But if it's like a charitable foundation that has to follow all the rules of a charity nonprofit or whatever in Europe, I think people would be far more inclined, not like individual small donors, but I mean like medium to big donors might be more inclined to throw money at it.
Which you could probably use a little more than the small donors. Although if there's a lot of small donors, you don't know. But yeah, medium to big donors are really going to want to see that they're a nonprofit. I was going to say a 501c3, but that's a U.S. nonprofit, right?
Right.
I don't know what
something similar in Europe.
The name is in Europe, but I mean, they're going to want to do that because they have to get receipts and make sure that it's a proper nonprofit if they want to get like write-offs for doing it. That could be a big thing. So yeah.
What do you got next?
Next, let me get my notes back up. Is so I think last week HK talked a little bit about EVs, so about numbers for EVs. So this week I want to do the same from a little different perspective. And so my topic is only 5% in the US want an EV. And this is based on a new survey from Deloitte. It claims that only 5% of US consumers want their next vehicle to be an EV. This is from the 2025 Global Automotive Consumer Study. So Global Automotive Consumer Study that surveyed 31,000 people in 30 countries. Gas cars, or since, they're loud and emit a smelly gas out the back end of their back end, are, can also be known as fart cars, will remain number one as the most likely type of car consumers are looking for in their next car. About 20% want a hybrid. And interestingly, I didn't write down how many gas cars. So I don't have the number specifically, but it's about 60% were looking for a gas car for their next car. So 20% want a hybrid, about 6%, 6 want a plug-in hybrid. And that leaves the 5% for the EV. And then there's a few other percent left over, which is basically, people who didn't respond or wanted some other random option. I guess another big one they didn't mention was hydrogen, but that seems to be going away and it's a very small percentage. And Chinese consumers have the highest rate of wanting EVs at 27%. And that probably has to do with a lot of incentives that Chinese consumers get there in China. And on the bad side, price and range seem to be the biggest concerns for consumers. So basically, their EV cars, while the prices have come down considerably, they're still a little bit more expensive for the same car as a gas car. Eventually, it's expected, like maybe in the next couple of years or so, to pretty much even out as battery prices are dropping rapidly, but that's not actually in this story. And on the positive side, lower fuel costs are the number one reason why consumers are interested in getting EVs. And, if you're a number file and want to read more numbers, there's a lot more in the article that's linked in the show notes. What do you think, Dave?
I wonder if that plug-in hybrid number, I wonder if like people, when they said hybrid, I wonder if they like even thought about the difference, right?
Yeah.
Because
I don't know if they, some people probably just said hybrid, even if they may have been including plug-in hybrids, right? Not just regular, or not just, regular hybrids. I don't know what you'd call them. And so many of the hybrids now, I think, are moving toward plug-in hybrids. which I think is good for EVs in general, because people who get a plug-in hybrid start plugging in at home, realize that they have a lot of range and that they're not really using gas all that much. Might decide that an EV might be a good idea for their next car. That's basically what happened with my parents.
Yeah, what am I doing lugging around this engine for?
Yeah.
When I could have more battery instead.
You have more battery, and if you can charge at home, that's great. I know there's a lot of people who live in apartments and can't really do that. But
even so, like depending on like where I'm at, there's no way this apartment complex could add it, right? The apartment that just faces the street, but there, places where it's like gated and you have parking and stuff. Some of those places do offer it, and they offer it at like a discounted rate versus if you had to go to like the store or something and charge your car. Some apartment complexes are even offering it free.
I've never noticed that, but when I was in California, I had a hybrid. I did not have a plug-in hybrid because those weren't very popular at the time, and I didn't have an EV, but my apartment complex did have a couple charging spots in the complex. I think they were paid, but I never, because I didn't have an EV or a plug-in hybrid, I did not use them. So I don't know what it was like. And then of course I worked for Google, so they had huge numbers of plug-in spots, depending on where I was working at the time. They moved me around a lot.
Well, this is good. I think a lot of people, I think for like hybrids are like the best for most people right now.
Yeah.
I
think people think they're the best. Right. I think that EVs for a lot of people who are not considering them are also the best. I would not be surprised if we slowly, I would expect like over time, basically your basic like car, sedan type car they'll all pretty much switch over to EVs. They're just, I think they're generally speaking better to drive. And there's other reasons, they're not just more environmentally conscious. I mean, there's actually better things for the environment than EVs, but I now for like trucks and stuff, that might be a different story because they have different requirements, and EVs, batteries are not quite as good, but for those requirements, but they are doing some of that.
Well, most people who buy a truck just use it as a car anyway, though. So
that's true.
This is good, I suppose. It's just interesting. Like some of the discrepancy maybe in the numbers too could be people who are like, I'm not buying a car, I take transit or whatever. And and that's being some of that stuff that was formerly not electric is being electrified, like the electrified Caltrain not too long ago. So
yeah. Most public transportation is electric. Well, if it's in like urban area, right? if you're doing a longer distance,
if it's on rails,
yeah. If you're doing a longer distance, that's a good point. Buses and stuff are also usually gas. There are some electric buses. I don't know how well they do, because I know that Google was like helping provide some to Mountain View, because they one of the campuses I was on, they had them there charging, and I'm like, okay, but I don't know, like, can they charge them enough to use them all day, or how that works?
It probably rotating, but I mean, they don't, I don't think a regular bus gets around all day on a tank of gas.
Yeah, but a regular bus, like, you can refuel it faster,
much faster. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of the issue for EVs. It's not just the range issue, right? Although they claim to basically have the same range as gas cars, right? The really usable range is a lot less if you're, not charging it all the way up and not discharging it all the way, but that range wouldn't be a problem, except that it takes so much longer to charge than it does to gas up a car.
They advertise like how long it takes to charge, but that's like the theoretical maximum with the best possible charging equipment under the best possible circumstances. And that's not what you get. You get what you get when you go somewhere and need to charge your car.
Pretty much.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, this is, only 5% of people. I mean, not everybody's even looking to buy a new car right away.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah. And then also in the article, they said like, they're like, the best way to sell electric cars is to like put people in the car and try it, and then it changes a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
A friend of mine has an electric BMW. It's an i4. I guess it's one of the cheaper ones.
Yeah.
That car hauls ass.
Yeah.
It's very quick.
That's what they do. That was one of the more popular ones for a while. I think.
It was just one of the, I don't know, it's one of the lower cost BMW electric cars though, because but anyway, it was a nice car. I liked the seats more than I cared about anything else, but because that's the BMW for you. And no, my friend doesn't drive like a jerk. Thanks everybody for checking out How the Tech Are You. We do this every week and it posts whenever it posts. You can find more information about me at echoplexmedia.com, and you are required to click one of these two things at the ends of my fingers. Have a great Tekken week.